Good morning, everyone. I will now call to order the May 4, 2023 Clackamas County Board of Commissioners Business Meeting. Gary Schmidt, County Administrator, would you please take the roll?
Yes, Chair Smith, thank you. First, our staff support today, Clerk to the Board, Tony Mayernick, Assistant County Counsel, Jeffrey Munns. Roll call, Commissioner West.
Here.
Commissioner Shull.
Here.
Commissioner Schrader.
Here.
Commissioner Savas.
Present.
Chair Smith.
Here, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good morning, everyone. We are holding this meeting in person and virtually. If you've joined us via Zoom for this meeting and are interested in providing public comment, we will prompt you regarding how to do that when the time is right. General public comment will be taken at the usual allotted time. I would like to remind all participants, including staff, all elected officials, and members of the public that Robert's Rules of Order will be enforced in this business meeting. We welcome your opinions and look forward to your polite participation. Gary Schmidt, can you please introduce the first item?
Yes, Chair. First is the Housing Authority Consent Agenda. Chair, if you would please convene as the Housing Authority.
I will recess as the Board of County Commissioners and convene as a Housing Authority of Clackamas County.
Joining you online is Housing Commissioner Ann Leenstra. Good morning, Ann.
Good morning.
This is the Housing Authority of Clackamas County Consent Agenda. Tony, would you please read the consent agenda?
Housing Authority Consent Agenda, one item. Approval to apply for additional Veteran Administration supportive housing vouchers to assist veterans with housing stability. Anticipated grant value is $300,000. Funding is through the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. No county general funds are involved.
Thank you very much. Does any commissioner wish to remove any item? Seeing none, Commissioner Leenstra, would you like to make a motion?
I move we approve the Housing Authority consent agenda.
Second.
Commissioner Leenstra has moved approval of the Housing Authority consent agenda, and Commissioner Schrader has seconded that. Any further discussion? Seeing none. Tony, please take the poll.
Commissioner Leenstra.
Aye.
Commissioner West.
Aye.
Commissioner Shull.
Aye.
Commissioner Savas.
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader.
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Aye. Motion passes 6-0. Thank you very much, Ann.
You're welcome.
Excuse me, Gary, what's
Yes,
next?
Chair, would you now please convene as the Water Environment Services Board?
I will recess as a Housing Authority of Clackamas County and convene as a Water Environment Services Board.
Your first up is a Water Environment Services Board public hearing, and it is second reading and adoption of an ordinance 02-2023, adopting rules and regulations for water environment services. No fiscal impact, no county general funds are involved. Greg Geist, the Director of Water Environment Services, Ron Raringa, Assistant Director of Water Environment Services. And yes, today is Star Wars Day, and they brought a little TIE fighter up front. Thank you, gentlemen. Well done. Go ahead.
It's May 4th. May the Force be with you.
Star Wars Day?
Today is International Star Wars Day, May the 4th.
National.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Ron.
Good morning, Chair Smith and members of the board. I'm Ron Waringa, Assistant Director of Water Environment Services. Before you this morning, we have a second of two hearings for you to consider approval of an ordinance adopting updated rules and regulations for WES. The effect of the ordinance would be to repeal WES's existing rules and adopt the revised draft included in the hearing materials. I have a short presentation providing background on the project and the proposed rules and regulations. Water Environment Services is an intergovernmental partnership formed between Clackamas County Service District Number 1, the Tri-City Service District, and the Surface Water Management Agency of Clackamas County. Currently, each of the service areas associated with the three underlying service districts is governed by a separate and distinct section of the WES rules. The district rules are established to serve a public use and promote the orderly and uniform administration of district affairs and the general welfare of the residents using the district's sanitary and stormwater systems. In order to do this in the most effective and efficient way, we need to adopt an updated set of rules for the operation of WES. The goal of this project was to combine, update, and revise the current WES rules and form one set of rules with overlapping administrative authority, definitions, and regulations, therefore creating consistent governance throughout WES's service area. The added benefits of this rule update include improving regional alignment with the county and the cities we serve, addressing new regulatory requirements, and updating policies to reflect new technologies and approaches. This effort to develop a new set of rules began in 2018. WES staff implemented a comprehensive outreach and engagement process to form the foundation of the revised rules. The process included listening sessions with stakeholders who use the rules frequently, formation of a technical task force of development engineers and staff from our partner cities, community briefings to interest groups, neighborhood associations, members of the business community, and informational forums, and a broad public review process that included the publication of the draft rules for comment and multiple presentations to the WES Advisory Committee. The proposed rules and regulations have been thoroughly vetted and ultimately are recommendations based on industry expertise and input. County Council has reviewed and approved the rules and regulations. On March 16th, 2022, the WES Advisory Committee voted to recommend the board adopt the revised rules. Key policies were presented to the board for consideration at 2 policy sessions on March 15th and on March 29th of this year. If approved and adopted by the board, the new rules and regulations would go into effect July 1st, 2023. Thank you for your consideration of this matter. Staff recommends that the board read the ordinance by title only and approve and adopt the rules and regulations for water environment services. And I can answer any questions if you have them.
Thank you. Greg Geist, Director, do you have any comments?
Nothing other than this has been a massive project. It's not a revision, it's a complete rewrite. It's been a lot of work. We're very proud of it. We think elements of these new rules and regs are going to be adopted across the region because some of this stuff is pretty innovative, and we're proud of it.
Great. Attorney Jeffrey Mums, any comments? Are you good?
I am good. I know our office has spent a great deal of time on this. Amanda Keller spent a great deal of time going through these, and others in our office as well.
Now open up to directors for comments. Commissioner Savas.
So remind me again, the 2 issues that I had were with slope for the conveyance lines, and the other one was the waiver, potential waivers. That was a waiver as well, but potential waivers also for stormwater detention.
For fee and lieu.
So you all referenced that there was a second approval or a second process in which those could be rectified or dealt with. Can you elaborate a little bit, please?
Yes, Commissioner. The first, I'll take the stormwater fee in lieu first. There's, in our stormwater standards, which are separate from these rules and regulations, there's an option to demonstrate compliance with the stormwater management requirements to do fee in lieu of doing on-site stormwater management if for some reason it's deemed infeasible. That option in the standards really just is a placeholder for allowing people to use it with the district's approval at the district's own discretion. There's not a lot of process associated with it in the standards. That's something we hope to develop as we go forward. There is a statement in the rules and regulations that are before you today that also give the district the authority to allow a fee in lieu option. That hasn't changed since our initial proposal and presentation to the board. It remains the same. The pipe slope issue for the sanitary sewer system was a revision to the methodology for designing the slope of sanitary sewer main lines. That is in the sanitary sewer standards that again are adopted at the department level, not in the rules and regulations. The rules have a section that provides the district director the authority to adopt technical standards, and we can talk more about that as well. That's not a new policy or practice. It's been that way for quite some time. But the pipe slope issue that we had discussed and that you had raised concerns about also still remains as initially presented from a design perspective in the standards.
So since I expressed my concerns about that, has there been any other activity or discussions that took place with the advisory committee or anyone?
No, Commissioner, we haven't gone back to the advisory committee, but we did, after you expressed your concern, go back to our staff, our essentially district engineer, Jeff Stallard, and his staff and our permitting staff. And once again, check to make sure that, we did our homework and that we feel that we will get the velocities in the pipes based on the proposed methodology. And we confirmed that, so we're going forward with that proposal at this time.
Well, the other concern I have, I'm speaking to my colleagues here, is that I do have concerns, frankly, because those, your position and concerns and experiences are probably unique to those who actually dig those lines and repair those lines and deal with that. And I think that's where my concern lies. And consequently, that's a burden. If there is a problem, that's a burden either to the property owners or to us, being West, the board of directors here. So I am also concerned that it's an administrative decision, not a board of directors decision in this case as well, right? So for those folks that have a grade issue that are beyond the waiver, they have to do a pump station, or they have to come up with a different remedy, correct? I mean, if the lines in the grade are such that you really need your own little pump, for your site to lift it, a lift pump to bring it up to grade, those people still experience that burden, correct?
Are we talking about the sanitary sewer system?
Yes, sir, we are.
Yeah, if they can't make the grade, the minimum slope, and they can't reach the sanitary sewer service and meet the district requirements, then they are likely looking at a pump station.
So what's in the best interest of the district, it would seem, as far as having residual stuff in the lines and not falling, odor, those kinds of things that are being expressed, settling to the lines and those kind of problems, is a small carve out for a small group of people that have a certain grade issue, because those have a huge grade issue will have a far greater burden. They can't be helped. So this carve out doesn't really seem in the best interest of the district, frankly. I mean, knowing that there are grade issues. We have topographical challenges in this county because of the hills and the slopes. So I don't know why we're making out this fine carve out and again, putting ourselves at risk.
Well, Commissioner, in terms of a carve out, we allow certain slopes for a certain anticipated volume in a wastewater line. And so to be able to go less than 1% on a grade, which is still the standard, if people can get it, we're going to ask people to set pipe slopes at 1%. But if for some reason they can't and they have enough volume in the line, which we're equating to a certain number of connections, it's in the opinion of our technical experts that we will get the velocities in the main lines to move things along. I'm certainly, when it comes to the process, for example, the authority that is in the rules for the district director to adopt technical standards is really around the things that you're talking about: backfills, pipe types, pipe slopes, things like that. We adjust those standards as we go along. We just had an issue recently where we had someone doing a development project that was looking at an extremely large stormwater pipe that we still have a somewhat dated standard in our stormwater standards about pipe type that would require concrete. There's new pipe types out there that'll give us what we need in terms of strength and give them what they need in terms of construction. We can approve that through a variance now. If we chose to try and update our standards just to change a pipe type, we'd have to have a public hearing to do that. So it's one of the reasons it's been a long-standing practice to have the department promulgate the technical standards, is really from an administrative standpoint. In practice, we would bring that to the board. So updates of our standards, aside from having a 30-day public review and a public process for updates to our technical standards, we would have a policy session with the board and advise you of that change. That's just a good idea. But ultimately, that's why it is the way it is and has been that way for over 10 years. I would like to just also, if you have people that we'd love to talk to whoever you're talking to and has advice, and hear their input and their expertise. So, feel free to send them our way. We're constantly listening, just as we did in this process when we met with many engineers, not only our own, but at cities and also in the private sector, to come up with these proposals. But I'd love to talk to people that have input for us. That would be great.
So, Director Geist, I believe when we had this conversation last, you mentioned that by approving this, that we come back and we can approve later. Now I'm hearing that that's actually not the case, that it's your decision to make and approve the standard. So I'm really misled here this morning.
I
feel I'm
never
misled
said that.
because the statement was that it would come back to us in a different form.
I don't recall saying that, no.
Okay. I'll not be supporting this, Chair. I really believe that there ought to be some adjustment, and I don't think an effort was made.
Thank you, Commissioner Savas. Commissioner Scholl, you're up.
Yes, good morning, Ron and Greg. For those of you who are here today, the leadership of WES has briefed the board in detail on these recommended rules and regulation changes. And I'd like to thank Ron and Greg and all the personnel from Water Environmental Services for running an efficient and cost-effective sewage treatment and stormwater operation. The WES facility is probably, most likely, the biggest industrial infrastructure we have in the county. I believe it's well managed. We hear very few problems coming from the facility. And I like to say I recommend these rules and regulation changes that you've proposed. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioners. I will now open a public hearing and ask if there's anybody in the room who would like to speak on this topic. Do I see anybody who's filled out a blue card or raise your hand? Sir, did you fill out a card? Would you? Okay. I don't know. Please come forward. I don't know where it is. Preston Korst.
Yes, that is
Is that
me.
correct?
That is correct.
Thank you for coming forward. I have a big pile of cards here. I thought you were in the other part of the testimony.
Fair enough. Sorry about that.
Yeah,
So,
please introduce yourself.
yes,
and,
Preston Korst, Home Building Association of Greater Portland. Chair and Commissioners, thank you for having me this morning. I apologize. I did not come prepared with any Star Wars memorabilia, but I hope my testimony will suffice. So here today, first and foremost, to represent both the Home Building Association, which of course I am a part of, but also the WES Advisory Board Commission, which I'm also on. So I'm hoping to wear two hats and urge you all to vote in favor of these adopted rules and regulations. From a policy perspective and from a sort of a public engagement perspective, I would say that WES's development sort of advisory or association and communication with the development community has been great throughout the process. I mean, this has been going on since 2018. They've come and presented to HBA's many policy groups, and we've had many coordination and communication with both myself and the other members in the development community who have a seat on WES. Overall, I think these rules will help level the playing field and create more consistency across the districts that represent and make up WES's service area. I also think that they allow a much-needed improvement and update to the types of data that is used to calculate a lot of the ways that fees are charged and development process appeals and approvals are routed. So I am here with both hats to say we urge you to support this. And if you have any questions from us or our members, I'm happy to take them.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you coming forward. Is there anybody else in the room who would like to testify on this? Seeing none. Tony, is there anyone online?
Madam Chair, we'll begin with Diana Helm. Ms. Helm, please state your name and area of residence. You will have 3 minutes. Ms. Helm, you are muted.
All right, can you hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, very, very good. Thank you. Good morning, Chair Smith and Commissioners. For the record, my name is Diana Helm. I'm a local business owner, active member of the Chamber of Commerce, and I currently serve in an elected capacity on the Sunrise Water Authority Board. I'd love to be there in person today, but it's the week before Mother's Day, and it's like Christmas around here at Terra Casas. So I am also the chair of the Water Environment Services Advisory Committee, and I'm honored to be here this morning to say a few words in support of the second reading and adoption of Water Environment Services proposed rules and regulations. It's been my honor to serve on the WES Advisory Committee since its conception in 2018. For those of you who may not know, the Advisory Committee provides input and makes recommendations on surface and wastewater issues to WES and the Board of County Commissioners. We are comprised of ratepayers, business leaders, clean water professionals, and appointed elected officials from our service area communities. And I can attest that we take our charge very seriously, which is why I'm speaking on this today. So it was in that first year, under the new regionalized committee model, that Ron Waringa introduced us to what the rules and regulations were and the need for updating them. What stood out then and still seems relevant today is the need for unification and modernization. As a business person, I fully support WES's efforts to streamline the rules and regulations to make it easier for customers and for staff. This was a monumental task that Ron took on, and he did an exceptional job of walking the advisory committee through the entire process of updating these rules and regulations. This was not easy. He and staff did an amazing job at this. As a seated chair since 2018, I'm here to affirm that WES has ensured we've had numerous opportunities to learn and provide input over the past several years into the process. It was important to the committee that the outcomes were balanced, fair, and allowed for predictable planning. I believe the updates do just that. I'd like to close my testimony today by asking the Board of County Commissioners to adopt the updated rules and regulations as presented. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Tony, anyone else?
Madam Chair, that is the end of my list.
Thank you very much. I will now close the public hearing and ask commissioners, directors, if there's no further discussion, I will entertain a motion.
Chair, I do have a little, just final comment on this. I too want to acknowledge and thank our staff and the advisory committee for all their hard work. I believe 99% of what they've done I'm okay with and applaud, frankly. I just want to clarify that no one on this board lives in the sewer aspect or the boundaries of the district. So it's just the nature of the beast here. However, I spent 7 years serving, or 9 years serving on the Oak Lodge Sanitary Board, in which we, as ratepayers, and I am a ratepayer in Oak Lodge Sanitary District, and paying the consequences of lines that are settling and have to deal with neighbors, contractors, and so forth for this very issue. So I take it with experience, I take it very seriously, and if there's a precaution we can do to the ratepayers in the future, I think it's incumbent upon us, especially in the fact that we don't reside, unfortunately, in the sanitary side of this district. So I don't think we have the impacts or the experiences to understand the consequences. And we have lines, right-of-ways, and challenges in our community that are going to cost us millions of dollars because of lines that are settling. And had they had in areas where there's sufficient slope, there is settling, but it hasn't really caused the problems it has in the areas with very little slope.
Thank you. Commissioner Scholl?
Yes, it's true. I don't live in the service area of West. I live 3 miles north of Sandy, but my concern for the ratepayers of West is just as sincere as if I lived right next door to the plant. Thank you.
Commissioner West?
Just a question. When you guys make this decision and bring forth policies like this, it looks like you guys work in collaboration with the HBA and developers. Do you guys also collaborate closely with the companies that service the lines that the actual contractors that do the work also in these areas, or who's involved in the process? How much of the public, who's weighing in and working with you guys to help make this decision? And I'm just curious if those contractors that work on these lines, lay these lines, do these slope work, if they're also involved in the process from like the practical side.
Commissioner, I'm trying to remember on our task force if we had representatives from the construction community on it. I know we had developers and we had development engineers and public engineers advising on our design standards. So I don't know that we did have, construction contractors on it. Our staff that have provided input internally, whether it's our engineering staff who build collection systems or whether it's our operations staff who also do line replacements and maintenance. We had a lot of input from them and internal workshops about what's working and what's not working, and we took that to heart and tried to address those issues. So more internally, I would say.
So I said this last time, this is not something I'm an expert in, but trying to learn as I represent Clackamas County. I did, just to try to get an idea about what it was like, I did call some contacts that are well-known excavators. They manage these lines. They're who you call if something goes wrong or if you're building new, they're the guys laying the pipe down, right? And so just because I was the only person who I knew that would maybe be able to tell me in reality like what it's like. So I still have tons of questions about, about water services and all of that. However, do you think that there's a possibility to expand the input that we get that would be meaningful with that segment being represented when you guys do work like this?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's a great point, and in the future, and as we go forward and review and update our technical standards, we can absolutely include members from the construction community.
Cool. Thank you for that.
Thank
And just to be clear, I mean, the construction folks in many cases build the infrastructure, but once it's in the ground and we accept it, we're the ones that are maintaining it. And so it's really our staff that are every day out there dealing with sagging pipes or cracked pipes, things like that. So it's a great idea. I think the reason it probably got overlooked is because they build it and walk away from it. We own it and maintain it.
I do know that when I talk to these business owners that they're very much in communication regarding these regulations about how practical they are, the expense of doing it, the reality of whether or not they're going to be called back out as a contractor to fix it. So yes, you're factual also, but what you said is totally factual. But I also believe that we might even be able to do better with their voice included.
I agree.
Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, there are contractors out there that specialize in new development, right? There's also developers that do both that and also do repairs and subsequent. So there's a different viewpoint from the development side of the development world that does this work versus those who have to do it after the fact and fix things. So that experience level is what ideally ought to be represented.
Thank you. I will entertain a motion. Commissioner Scholl.
I move we read the ordinance by title only.
Second.
Director Scholl has moved we read the ordinance by title only. Director Schrader has seconded the motion. Any further discussion? Tony, please take the poll.
Director Schrader.
Aye.
Director Savas.
Reading the title only, aye.
Director West.
Aye.
Director Scholl.
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Aye. Motion passes 5-0. Clerk, would you read the ordinance by title only?
Ordinance 02-2023, an ordinance adopting rules and regulations for water environment services.
Thank you. Do the directors have any amendments at this time? I'll entertain a motion. Commissioner Scholl.
I move we approve ordinance 02-2023, an ordinance adopting rules and regulations for water environment services.
Excuse me, it was Director Scholl.
Yes, thank
I
you.
said that, yes. Director Scholl has moved we approve ordinance 02-2023, an ordinance adopting rules and regulations for water environment services. The second?
Second.
Commissioner Schrader, second the motion. Any further discussion? Tony, please take the poll.
Director Schrader,
Aye.
Director Scholl,
Aye.
Director West,
Aye.
Director Savas,
Nay.
Chair Smith.
Aye, motion passes 4-1. Thank you very much. Gary, what's next?
You are still meeting as the Water Environment Services Board. Next is consent agenda for Water Environment Services. Tony, would you please read the consent agenda?
Water Environment Services Consent Agenda, 1 item, approval of an amendment for a contract with Mitchell's Trenchless Incorporated for additional scope for early work on the Tri-City Water Resources Recovery Facility Outfall Project. Amendment value is $453,536.60. Contract value is increased to $2,158,083.60. Funding is through Water Environment Services Construction Fund. No county general funds are involved.
Thank you very much. Does any commissioner wish to remove anything from the consent agenda? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I move we approve the Water and Environment Services consent agenda.
Well, second.
Director Schrader has moved we approve the Water Environment Service consent agenda, and Director West has seconded the motion. Any further discussion? Tony, please call a poll.
Director West,
Excuse me. Aye.
Director Scholl,
Aye.
Director Schrader,
Aye.
Director Savas,
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Aye, motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much. I will now adjourn as the Water Environment Service Board and reconvene as the Board of County Commissioners. We will start in a public hearing. Jeffrey Mums.
I'll introduce it. So this is a public hearing. Item 1, a public hearing to determine number of written requests for an election or to adopt final order to withdraw territory from the Canby Area Parks and Recreation District. No fiscal impact, no county general funds are involved. Jeff Munz, Assistant County Counsel, will present.
Thank you, and good morning, Chair and Commissioners. This is the second public hearing on this matter. On March 23rd of this year, you approved a preliminary order withdrawing territory from the Canby Area Parks and Recreation District. In that order, it also set a second hearing, as required by law, to determine if we've received enough written requests for an election. If we received 100 or more requests for an election, then this matter will be referred to the ballot for an election within the Canby Area Parks and Recreation District on this question of withdrawing territory. If we have not received, and I can say I have not received any written requests for an election, if any of you have, or if county staff have, this public hearing to determine if we have received any. Looks like we've received none. So in that case, you would be adopting a board order approving the withdrawal of territory from the Canby Area Parks and Recreation District.
Thank you for that. Commissioner Schrader, you wish to comment?
Yes, I see two of the folks who have been working on it in the audience. Nice to see you here today. This has been a long and arduous process. I think this is a wise thing to do. I think it will help the city of Canby and help consolidate actually a lot of the work that they do with Canby kids and the sports programs they have there. So good work, folks. Thanks for sticking with it. And I think we need to move forward.
Commissioner Scholl?
Yes, question. The mayor of Canby, the city council, and the people of Canby, generally, they're in agreement with this.
We received a letter, it was part of the packet that was submitted with the original presentation to the board was a letter from the city council of the city of Canby in support of this petition.
Good, thank you.
Thank you very much. I will now open the meeting for public testimony on this and take the person in person first. Is there anybody in the room who wishes to testify on the Canby boundary issue? Seeing none. Tony, is there anyone online?
There is not, Madam Chair.
Okay. I will now close the public hearing and ask if there's further discussion. Tony, how many written requests for an election on this matter have been received?
None have been received.
Okay, thank you. I will now entertain a motion.
I move we adopt the final order withdrawing territory from the Canby Area Parks and Recreation District.
Seconded?
Commissioner Schrader has moved we adopt the final order withdrawing territory from the Canby Area Parks and Recreation District, and Commissioner Schull has seconded that motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Tony, please call the poll.
Commissioner Schull,
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader,
Aye.
Commissioner Savas,
Aye.
Commissioner West,
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Aye, motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much. Yay, people are happy. Love happy people, just so you know. Up next is a tolling discussion. Gary, would you like to talk about that?
Yes, Commissioners, this is not noticed on the agenda. However, Chair Smith has approved adding this item for a very brief, or as long as you wish, discussion on tolling to follow up on your discussion earlier this week on May 2nd. On May 2nd at Issues, you approved the staff sending a letter to the Oregon Legislature commenting on House Bill 3614, and you directed the Special Operations Committee to meet to discuss a press release to send out about the tolling actions. Special Operations Committee is a legislative committee internally here that meets between board meetings to determine actions that can't wait. And the membership is Chair Smith, Vice Chair Schull, myself as the Administrator, County Counsel, and the Director of Public and Government Affairs. So the Special Operations Committee met later on Tuesday afternoon. As you know, the governor announced she was putting a pause on tolling. We wanted to get further clarification from her office, which we didn't have yet. So at staff recommendation, Chair Smith and Vice Chair Schull agreed to hold on sending the letter until we had further clarity on what the governor's office, what the governor was going to do about the pause on tolling. And we decided to hold on the press release, also because waiting for the governor's office. Since then, the governor has really not given much further direction because there's other stuff going on right now with the Secretary of State, as you know. So with consultation with Chair Smith this morning, Public and Government Affairs is doing a press release right now. There's no need to wait on that any longer. It's going to acknowledge the work this board has done to really inspire the legislature and the governor to do the pause. So because of your leadership, Commissioners, we want the world to know that. So that press release is going to go out any moment now. The letter, though, we do want to revisit with you today. And since you're here, we have the most recent draft in front of you at the dais. It's also posted online. We'd like clarity. If you were ready to send this letter, if there's any other edits you'd like to make, we'd like to dispense with that now so we can get it out the door.
Thank you, Gary. Also, during our special ops meeting, it was revealed that something new was going to happen in the legislature, and we didn't really want to get sideways with a press release going out and/or a letter. And what had happened, sure enough, a special subcommittee on transportation was appointed, and I believe the Speaker of the House and the Senate President are on that with key transportation leaders in the Oregon House of Representatives. However, am I correct in assuming, maybe Trent is here, can help me, we're not sure exactly what they're going to do on that committee. There was hope when that came out late, was it Tuesday afternoon, almost evening, there was hope that maybe on Wednesday we would learn more about their function, but we have not. Is that correct? You know, things change every 5 minutes in Salem, so can you just give us an update on the most recent?
Yes, thank you, Chair Smith. My name is Trent Wilson with the Public and Government Affairs Office here at Clackamas County. You're correct. There's still information that's forthcoming. The subcommittee will be a legislative committee that will have two co-chairs. One of them will be Senator Senator Lewis, from North Portland, and Representative Nancy Nathanson from the Eugene area. That committee will be focused on meeting during the interim to address different issues with tolling and other financing issues related to funding transportation projects. We're still learning, to your point, we're still learning a lot about what this committee will do. Every legislator so far that's been appointed to this has different expectations and hopes for what this work will accomplish, and so we are still very much at the front of learning the full outcome here.
Okay. Do we know exactly what the governor has said?
No.
No. Somebody else has quoted the governor as saying that she might pause on tolling?
Well, that's correct. So they are working with the governor's office on this. As Administrator Schmidt mentioned, there's other news happening this week that has her priority right now, which is understandable. Correct. The legislators that have worked with the governor on this, the pause is on the collection of tolls. And so we've heard from the governor's office that a lot of other work will still continue in the meantime, like the EA, the environmental assessment, NEPA. We're still expecting that work to continue, but that is also on a list of questions that we have a lot of questions about. For what does this pause mean? How will that actually function? What's our role in this? How will we have local involvement in the subcommittee process? So we are taking these questions, we're writing them down, we're waiting for this more information from the governor's office to piece it all together.
I know this board wanted that information to go out, but it was just a moving target, and I think Commissioner Scholl and I agreed on Tuesday on special ops. A lot of news was printed in the media and on the news, and so I think offering a press release today is actually more timely because it's a down news day, and we'll finally get our message out, and it won't be clouded by what everybody else is saying and trying to do. So that's just, I think it's going to be very timely. We have a couple commissioners in the queue, Commissioner Savas and then Commissioner West.
Yeah, well, thank you, Chair. When I suggested the press release, I believe it was Tuesday? Yeah, Tuesday. The purpose of which was to help to inform, number one, applaud the pause, at least the, hearing us and make that acknowledgement, but also to, and I'll digress. Certainly, HB 3614 and the outcome of that was unknown, and we're navigating that. I think that's reasonable to hold the letter back as a response to HB 3614, but most especially now with 3614 being essentially a dead bill, it appears, even more so, I think that the press release should go, but also now include a strong message that, and we're hearing this from our local partners, our local jurisdictions, mayors, councilors, everyone else, that there's language in there that references a local community representation or work group on that. And I don't know what the latest draft is, but I don't see that language in the one that was submitted to me a couple days ago. Is there language that addresses that?
Trent or Gary, can you answer the
Because
question?
the purpose is to inform and influence and be strategic, not just to applaud.
No, we're not. That's absolutely right, Commissioner Savas. You do have a draft letter in front of you, commissioners, here at the dais. And the outcome of the proposed task force on tolling is to provide transparency and legislative oversight to ensure Oregonians that communities will not suffer undue impact safety. So House Bill 3614 referenced the task force that would be set up. This letter supports that, unless somebody wants to make a change on that.
Well, Chair, I think we're conflating two things. My understanding is the letter is probably not going to go. 3614 is dead, so I just need clarity. If the letter's not going to go, going back, I don't want to conflate the letter and the press release. I'm speaking to the press release. It's about to go out any minute now. Is there language in there that addresses what I just spoke to with regards to local jurisdictional representation in a work group?
Yes, I have the draft of the press release right here, and staff is waiting for this discussion to end before they hit send, in case you want to change it. But yes, it says, the county has many questions, this is the press release, the county has many questions about the newly formed subcommittee and hopes to see local jurisdictions, residents, business owners, freight representatives, transit providers, transportation experts, and others included at this table.
Okay, I haven't seen that.
So if you want us to share the press release draft with you, it won't go out today, commissioners. we're trying to expedite what you asked us to do.
Or
But
do you
we're
want
happy-
special ops to do it? I mean, that's what originally intended, is
Special
special
ops to do it.
ops. So, commissioners, this is just informational for you. You've already said that special ops can take care of this. We're bringing this back as a courtesy to let you know what we're doing. So we can do the special ops with a press release. The discussion today, do you want to submit a letter? The original draft of the letter is in front of you. Yes, it references House Bill 3614. We know that particular legislation probably will not proceed. But in that House bill is very important aspects that we like. Do we want to send yet another letter to the legislature, re-emphasizing what we liked in 3617, hoping the new subcommittee that is appointed look at that? That's the question. If we could address that, yes or no, or wait till next week, or we could do this afternoon. Trent?
My recommendation is to hold until we know more. I think the press release will do a lot of good work. It'll keep a very consistent and clear message from the county this week with the good news of the pause. We'll know more about the life expectancy of the bill next week. We'll know more about, hopefully we hear from the governor's office today on what her intentions are. We'll have more information to make better communication from the county. Gratitude and expectation in our press release today, per Commissioner Savis's point and others here, I think is a good, clear message from Clackamas County. It would be my recommendation that we stick to the press release this week and hold on a letter until we know more information.
So, Chair, if I may,
Yes.
one more time, just for clarity. Because it really bases, my decision, my support will be based on really what the press release says. So if someone could get either me a copy or read it one more time in its entirety, I know that's laborious, but it makes a big difference. If it answers all the questions, I'm not really going to pursue the letter about HB 3614. So if I get comfort in the press release.
That's fine. That's fine. We can get one to you. Commissioner West and then Commissioner Scholl.
You know, I appreciate Governor Kotek putting a pause, whatever that pause is or whatever that means. However, the legislature twice voted for tolling, and we're here because of many legislators that supported this. Now, some of them in Clackamas County finally seem to be maybe having a change of heart and a change of mind on this issue, and I believe much of that is due to the work of this board in this county with being smart, professional, strategic, and well-prepared for the fight against tolling and the tolling scheme. I wish we would go through a legislative fix because it's really the right way to do it because the legislature got us here. Though I do appreciate the governor's action. But, you know, I'm not in Salem, we're not in Salem, and it sounds like that bill is dead. So we should probably hold off on that letter, and I respect your recommendation.
If I may,
Yeah.
I think the legislative fix is coming, and I think that's the intent of the subcommittee, is there's a lot of work and a lot of stakeholders beyond just Clackamas County about how tolling will impact the state moving forward. The I-205 project is just the first project, right? Because there's other projects that are behind it. And so there are a lot of legislators who want to get into the mix. 3614 was really a kind of a Clackamas bill in many ways. And so I think legislators are nervous about having a fix for one specific toll project. So this subcommittee is intended to have a more robust look and create some of that legislative language that you're hoping for just through a subcommittee that's going to give it more time to have conversation rather than one of those quick rapid fire, here's a bill. So it is good work. It is in response, as Administrator Schmidt mentioned, to y'all's great leadership to continue to push this issue. I just think that legislative fix will come later.
And my question also with that, the subcommittee. So is it an independent committee? Is ODOT overseeing this? Is the fox guarding the hen house? Like what is the structure of the hierarchy or is this just a dog and pony show to look like we're doing something? Are we going to address core issues? I don't know if we know all the answers to that, but I'm a little bit concerned maybe in understanding the structure and the oversight and the hierarchy of the subcommittee.
Thank you. It is a subcommittee of the Joint Committee on Transportation. Senator Frederick is a co-chair of that larger umbrella committee, and he will be the one of the co-chairs of this committee. He represents the I-5 corridor, the I-5 bridge, so I don't think this is a dog and pony show at all. I think this is a very serious commitment by the legislature to work on this.
Okay, and then my last thing is I think we should get I got a little bit of my input into the press release. I think Chair Smith is completely right. It's a slow news day, based kind of just coming off of a hot couple days with the Secretary of State. Timeliness matters when we get our messaging out. I don't need to see it. I trust the work of my colleagues and the staff. I think we're on one accord, and I'm ready to push send.
Thank you. Gary.
The draft is walking in the door. Let's do it right now, commissioners.
Okay.
I got to say, respectfully, you're delving into operations here.
Yep.
You don't approve press releases like this, but this is important, so let's do it right now.
Commissioner Scholl, you're in the queue.
Yes, for those of you listening today, for the last couple years, ODOT has not been forthcoming with answers that our cities and counties have asked of them on how tolling would work and how it would affect our people. This board has been taking action to support the concerns of the people of Clackamas County and business here to fight tolling. I believe this letter, by the way, is addressed to the Clackamas County state legislators and members of the Joint Committee on Transportation. I believe if they receive this letter from us today, it would affect their decision-making over the next few days. And despite the governor's intent to pause tolling, again, that's not been defined, the people of this county must not allow a lull in the pressure that we're putting on the state of Oregon to resist, refuse the expensive burden that tolling would impose on our people. So I support the news release today, and I also would recommend that we sign and send this letter out, the draft that we have in front of us as provided by the clerk to the board this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Scholl. Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, as you know, I was in Salem on Tuesday and talked to some of our legislators and been speaking to people involved as late as last evening. And so I have a pretty good idea what the pulse is. And I see the paragraph that was added, the second to the last paragraph, and I suspect, and maybe this can be done in a letter if there's momentum to send a letter as well, but I kind of suspect maybe that having local residents and business owners and some others in there will make it too lofty or too difficult, too cumbersome, and there might be some pushback on that. And so I got the sense that where the momentum is going right now is with some key local and limited number of representatives. I heard that directly from one of the co-chairs.
Okay.
So I think it's, I would, whether we, again, this is a broad ask, and this is a very big broad ask, and I think the answer is probably going to be no. But if we make it some local jurisdictional key local jurisdictional representations, I think we have a better chance of getting over the finish line. And that would be my edit to the press release.
Comments?
I have no edits.
Okay, Commissioner Scholl.
I've read the press release. I like it. I think it sends a message to the public on where we're at, what needs to be done. It also reminds the public that this battle maybe has only begun, and like I said before, we must not allow a lull in the pressure against ODOT to resist tolling. Thank you. I support the press release. I support the letter.
Thank you, Commissioner Scholl. Commissioner Schrader.
Yes, I think we should move ahead with this now. I do agree with Commissioner Savas, but I don't want to stop the letter at this point in time.
I mean the press release.
With the press release. Letter, press release, whatever we're getting out there, Trent, you'll let me know. I do think that we continue, I know you're getting that message from our colleagues down in Salem, but I think we should do this now. I don't think it's going to preclude a continued conversation of who we think should be on the committee or how we help manage local input into this, so.
Commissioners, I'm going to recommend that we send the press release out as drafted right now. We take some time, and by Monday, we send another letter with more policy-oriented language in it. Press releases, is not designed to set policy of all the asks. The press release needs to go out today as drafted, I believe, and let's take some more time to redo the letter. And Commissioners, you all can have your input on a follow-up letter to legislators. Commissioner West.
Yeah, and I think that you guys get really close to that second to last paragraph. In my quote, I acknowledge the most impacted local cities of Oregon City, Westland, and Lake Oswego, specifically in that quote there. And it may not be the exact language that you're looking for, Commissioner Savas, but I think that we can continue to do that work moving forward. And this is a good day to get this out, and I agree with the rest of my commissioners who have that same sentiment.
Commissioner Scholl?
Yes, Chair Smith, I understand your idea there, but my concern is that we come to Monday and we still don't have definitive definition from the governor on what she means by the word pause. And then that could put us, instead of having our letter being proactive and upfront and influencing their decision, if we wait, it might come in after the fact.
Well, we're going to have, I believe, an opportunity to influence the actions on the subcommittee, which has not been scheduled for a meeting yet, correct?
Correct. It'll meet in
So
the
I
interim.
think that we have opportunity, when the letter goes out, the second letter to go out, to add even more than what's written here. It's only a one-pager. We can really get in, I believe, more depth on the policy. And I do think that the press release needs to go out this morning. If we would have done it on Tuesday, as you remember, there were many competing information in the media. Shamia Fagan had resigned. The governor did this, paused, and so we wouldn't have been heard. Today, we will be heard, I believe. Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, well, it looks like there's support to send it out as is, so I'll leave that alone for now. I just want to make an overall statement here, a comment, an observation, if you will, and that is that I think this ought to demonstrate to the public, the citizens in this state, that how funding decisions and transportation decisions are made is broken. This is the most dysfunctional thing. Everyone has asked me in my 12 years of being a county commissioner, how are these decisions made? Well, you have JPAC, you have TPAC, you have this committee, you have that committee, you have the state legislature. Oh, no, it's the OTC. Oh, no, it's the governor. This goes to show that there is no firm framework of how decisions are made, and it's the pointing of, oh, I didn't do this, I didn't support that bill, or I didn't support tolling. How did we get here? We got here with people that crafted this, imposed it on a community that wasn't really adequately represented, and it's still today, okay? We invited, in good faith, a number of folks, and I applaud those that took us up on the invitation to tour and to talk to our communities directly. But when the key decision makers that are saying, no, we're gonna do tolling anyhow, do not take us up on that offer, and they want to stay in their area or their district,
That's right.
that's very troublesome.
It is. It is, and we're going to get this press release out today. And commissioners, let's take some more time and add to the letter. We still have time on this. I don't see legislators rushing to have an emergency subcommittee on transportation. The governor's basically done their work for them momentarily on pause. So therefore, we have been hugely successful. Hugely successful. When ODOT came out with a 2,000-page environmental assessment, I think they thought nobody was going to read it. Well, guess what? Not only did Clackamas County read it, we hired an outside legal firm, along with our crack transportation staff, to go over every single point. And we answered that 2,000-page EA with our own 36-page rebuttal, saying, you have not done anything. You have not addressed diversion. You have not addressed safety on diversion. As a matter of fact, traffic accidents are going to go up huge amount. You have not looked at the economics. You have told I-205 more than any other lane. There is no free lane. Every jurisdiction in America, from California to Texas to Florida, and I've been in all those states in the last year, they all have free lanes where you don't have to toll everything. And the economic impacts on this has the potential to be the largest tax increase in Oregon's history. Believe it. They tell you it's going to be a $2 toll, maybe for a year, and then the legislature comes back, oh, we need more money, and they're going to up it, and they're going to up it, and they're going to up it. I will entertain a motion to send the press release out as written.
So moved.
Commissioner Schrader has moved that we send out the press release as written. Commissioner Savas has seconded the motion. I want to thank commissioners for all being on board with this. Commissioner Scholl, do you have a comment?
I just want to say that I'm proud of the board this morning. What you're seeing is 5 elected officials, elected by the people of this county, to stick up for the rights of the people of the county. And what we're doing today is we're pushing back against unelected bureaucrats. This county will not tolerate being told what to do and how our lives and our future will be run by unelected bureaucrats in Salem. Let's send out the press release.
Thank you. Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, just closing thoughts. I appreciate what you said, Chair. I also want to acknowledge the hard work that the cities did and the city staff did as well, and our mayors. We have galvanized behind this effort. So I want to just give my my accolades to all of them, and also the elected officials that joined us in Salem and worked on this, and they're still working on this today, and applaud them. In closing, I want to say this, because people called me up and said, "Oh, God, congratulations! Get out the champagne, or you have or break it open and have a glass of whiskey." And go, no, this is not time to celebrate. This is not time to be complacent. That's right. This is we got to stay firm on this, and we are not going. I'm not going to take my foot off the gas.
No, I just want to comment in that it seems like we dislike ODOT as much as we dislike Metro. What do you say? Let's think of I move. Who do we dislike? Oh,
Okay,
okay.
maybe another discussion, Commissioner Schrader. I do appreciate that, though. I'm going to call for the vote on this, Tony.
Commissioner West,
An enthusiastic aye.
Commissioner Shull,
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader,
Take this, ODOT. Aye.
Commissioner Savas,
It's not just ODOT. But
I know.
Chair Smith.
Aye, motion passes 5-0. Thank you, staff. Thank you, Trent, for coming forward. Gary, what's next?
All right, so I want to clarify what you've directed me to do, since I got feedback yesterday I don't do that. So we're sending the press release as written now.
Yes.
You are not sending a letter. You'll revisit that next week. May I suggest Tuesday at issues? Is that okay?
And I would suggest, Commissioners, you submit your comments Monday afternoon if you can, and then we'll just compile a letter. Trent, you can help with that. So Trent, would you like to reach out to Commissioners and help draft another letter?
Yes, we'll work with your office to
That's
do
more
that.
timely. And we'll just keep if we have to send a letter every week, then by golly, that's what we're going to do, okay? This is not a one and done.
Sorry for the increased workload, Trent.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Commissioners, please work with your policy advisors on suggested language, and instead they will work with Public and Government Affairs.
Thank you.
Okay.
Gary, what's next?
Thank you. Next is the consent agenda. Tony, would you please read the consent agenda?
Clackamas County Consent Agenda, elected officials, item 1, approval of previous business meeting minutes for the Board of County Commissioners. Transportation and Development, item 1, approval of an intergovernmental agreement with the City of Oregon City to transfer a portion of South Caulfield Road, total value $94,845, funding through Community Road Fund. No county general funds are involved. Item 2, approval of an intergovernmental agreement with Clackamas River Water for the Redland Road turn lanes at Ferguson and Bailey Improvement Project. Total value is $348,698 through project completion. Funding through Clackamas River Water. No county general funds are involved. Health, Housing, Human Services. Item 1, approval of the final 2023 Community Development Action Plan. No fiscal impact. No county general funds are involved. Item 2, approval of the Federal Community Development Block Grant Annual Application. Grant value is $2,203,585 for 1 year. Funding is through the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. No county general funds are involved. Item 3, approval of the Home Investment Partnerships Grant Annual Application. Grant value is $1,088,143 for 1 year. Funding is through the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. No county general funds are involved. Item 4, approval of the Emergency Solutions Grant Annual Application. Grant value is $193,644 for 1 year. Funding is through the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. No county general funds are involved. Item 5, approval of a subrecipient agreement with the City of Milwaukee for ADA ramps and sidewalk improvements. Total value is $145,000 for 1 year. Funding through Federal Community Development Block Grant. No county general funds are involved. Item 6, approval of an amendment increasing funding and changing the reimbursement rate for local subrecipient agreement with Azor Evangelical Lutheran Church of Canby for providing services during extreme weather. Amendment value is $13,400 for 6 months. Agreement value is increased to $73,905 for 9 months. Funding is through Oregon Housing and Community Services Department and $5,050 of budgeted county general funds. Item 7, approval of an amendment increasing funding and duration of intergovernmental revenue agreement with Clackamas Fire District Number 1 for medical direction. Amendment value is $72,000 for 1 year. Agreement value is increased to $144,000 for 2 years. Funding is through Clackamas Fire District Number 1. No county general funds are involved. Item 8, approval of a revenue intergovernmental agreement for job placement and job retention services with Oregon Department of Human Services Office of Vocational and Rehabilitation Services. Agreement value is $500,000 for 2 years. Funding is through the Oregon Department of Human Services. No county general funds are involved. Item 9, approval of a grant agreement with the Oregon Housing and Community Services Department for programs related to the governor's state of emergency due to homelessness. Total value is $4,435,294. Funding is through the state of Oregon. No county general funds are involved. Madam Chair, that concludes the list.
Thank you very much, Tony. Is there any commissioner who would wish to remove anything from the consent agenda? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Chair, I move that we approve the consent agenda as read.
Second?
Commissioner West has moved for approval of the consent agenda, and Commissioner Schrader has seconded that motion. Any further discussion?
Chair, I don't want to surprise my colleagues, but there's a small issue, not a big deal, but I will be voting no on the consent agenda because of one item, but not to worry.
All right. Tony, take the poll.
Commissioner Schrader,
Aye.
Commissioner Schull,
Aye.
Commissioner West,
Aye.
Commissioner Savas,
Nay.
Chair Smith.
Aye, motion passes 4-1. Thank you very much. Gary, what's next?
Next is public communication.
Up next is public communication. Thank you for being patient, people. But it was a bit of an education. This is how you see stuff made, and it's like making sausage. The portion of the agenda shall be limited to county business which are properly the object of board consideration and should be nonpartisan in nature, as the BCC is a nonpartisan governing body under Oregon revised statutes and county code. Testimony is limited to 3 minutes. Comments shall be respectful and courteous to all. As a reminder, you can email submissions for public communication at bcc@clackamas.us, and these will be accepted as part of the public record. I will now open public testimony to the people who are in the audience. The first card up, I believe, is Janet Davis. Thank you. I don't know if anybody else wants to come in order, but you wanted to come first. Please state your name, your area of residence, and you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Yes, it has been an education. I'm Janet Davis, and I live just outside of Sandy, Oregon. I'm the newly elected president of the Bull Run Community Association, CPO. We're located in the foothills of Mount Hood, a very rural area with lots of steep hills, very few roads, and many, many trees. So why am I here today? I'm here to bring attention to the dire state of the Bull Run Bridge on Bull Run Road. This is not a new problem, but it is definitely one that's getting worse. But first, before I go into detail, let me give kudos to your transportation department for all of their hard work over the last several years, mainly applying for funding to try to replace the bridge. I especially want to recognize Joel Howie for keeping our community association updated and answering questions at all of our meetings that he's come to. He's done a terrific job. So why comment now? What's the big deal? Well, in January, the weight restriction on our bridge decreased to 12 tons, which is not very much. This has had serious implications for residents and businesses who go through the area and public safety, especially during wildfire season, which is coming up. In addition, the most recent federal grant funding request was denied. So as part of our advocacy, we recently requested that ODOT, your favorite place, reconsider bridge funding through the statewide Transportation Improvement Program, or STIP. So all Clackamas County Commissioners were copied on that email, but just in case you haven't had time to look at it, I did bring paper copies to refresh your memories.
I believe we got that. Thank you, Janet.
Right, but
Go
just in
ahead.
case, you know, you guys have a lot to read, so I wanted to make sure you saw this one. So what are we here for? We have a group of people ready to speak. We ask the Board of Commissioners to make this bridge replacement your highest priority for transportation within the county. And thank you for this opportunity to speak.
Thank you very much for coming forward. We appreciate your time to this issue. Up next, and no particular order as far as I know, would you like to come forward? Yes, and what is your name? I'm Julie Stevens. Go ahead. Let me find your card. Here you are. Julie Stevens, you're number 2. Please state your name, area, residence.
Thank you, Chair Smith, Commissioners, staff. Thank you for the opportunity to communicate about this critical issue in our community. My name is Julie Stevens. I live in rural Sandy. I have for over 40 years. I'm currently the Vice President of the Bull Run Community Association and Planning Organization. I just wanted to add to what Janet said. I've reviewed the grant applications. There were 7 so far. The 2 most recent ones were to the statewide Transportation Improvement Program, the STIP, and then to the Federal Bridge Improvement Program, which you know was unsuccessful most recently. Between those 2 applications, I was shocked to see that the sufficiency rating of the bridge dropped from 12.1, which is what it was with this STIP application, to 2. It's one of the worst currently in the state. That significant drop was not just because of the degradation, but also the reevaluation, the new engineering that has been learned over the last 20 years since the prior rating system was put in place, and lessons learned. So with this being one of the worst in the state, it now is under inspection annually. And as Janet said, in January, because of the most recent inspection, the restriction was reduced to 12 tons. That means that our fire engines can't go across it, log trucks can't go across it, the long-haul vehicles that come between Highway 84 and 26 can't go across it. A lot of the equipment that's used to manage the Bull Run management area can now not be transported in that manner. Most recently, when we learned that the reduction would limit our emergency vehicles, our fire departments, they went to bat for us and were given an exemption so that if they travel now at only 5 miles an hour, they can take certain emergency vehicles across, meaning that the people in this area now don't have to wait 45 minutes for emergency service. They have their 15 minutes back. The bridge provides critical access not only to the rural community, but as I mentioned, the log trucks, the heavy haul trucks that are necessary to maintain the drinking water for the greater Portland area, over 1 million people.
Thank you very much.
May I?
Just please wrap up.
I will. The life expectancy is 5 to 10 years. If funding were available currently, right now, design, environmental, and construction would take at least 5 years in a best-case scenario. Thank you very much.
Just so you know, we have thank you for coming. We have a policy session scheduled to consider this, Gary.
Next Wednesday, May 10th.
Next Wednesday, May 10th. Just so you know of our actions, we just haven't put in grant applications. I have sat down along with Commissioner Schrader and practically begged United States Senator Ron Wyden. He sits on the most powerful finance committee in the state. Fix your own bridge, Senator. The city of Portland relies on this bridge for their water supply, so they can go up at least twice a week, because I have a friend that works at the City Water Bureau, because the city of Portland gets their water from Clackamas County. Can you help us and be a good partner? They have ignored us, and they have ignored us, I suspect, because they think they're going to build a new water plant down lower, and they don't want to be involved in this. Well, I believe the water plant they're going to build is running into some trouble, too. They don't have approval for that either. So it would behoove them to be good neighbors and good partners and not just continue to take from Clackamas County. Clackamas County is getting sick and tired of being a donor county, not only to Multnomah County, but so Portland can have their precious, pristine drinking water from the vast Bull Run Reservoir. Sir, what's your name?
My name is John Stewart. I'm a small woodland owner in Clackamas County. We manage Rain Cloud Tree Farm, a 120-acre tree farm. The tree farm is the first tree farm in the United States to be put under small woodland to be put under California's carbon sequestration program. We've been under it now for 5 years. Under that, I can harvest salvage timber from blowdown and do timber operations. With that bridge closed in the last 3 years, my cost for a log truck to access the mills in Molalla has increased from $330 a load to $650 a load because of the distance that you have to drive around to access the mills there. I spent 31 years working for the U.S. Forest Service. I retired from it 20 years ago and have been managing the small woodlands since. 25 of those years I spent working in the Bull Run watershed and in Columbia River Gorge. I spent 3 years as the fire management officer for the watershed. So I have extensive background in the watershed, and I just want to share with you very briefly some of the economics of this bridge. The Bull Run watershed is 139 square miles, or about 89,000 acres. It's one half of it is in Clackamas County. And I hate to say you sort of gave it away to the city of Portland. But anyway, it's prime timberland. When I was a young man cruising timber in there, we were cruising the timber at stumpage at $1 million an acre, 89,000 acres. Think what that's valued at in timberland. But, between 1958 and 1993, 14,500 acres were harvested by both the Forest Service and the city of Portland inside the watershed. That's 22% of the drainage. But things we forget are some of the history of that watershed. There's been, in my lifetime, when I worked there were two massive storms. What happens was when highs build up over the Great Basin, we get these wind events that sweep down through the Columbia Gorge. You've seen the 100-mile-an-hour winds there. Well, if they build up to a certain point, they bump up, and the Bull Run watershed is an east-west drainage. So those winds, 100-mile-an-hour winds, sweep down the drainage. The last one occurred in 1983. At that time, 300 million board feet of timber were blown down in the watershed on 1,670 acres, less than 2% of the drainage's acreage. That was valued at today's stumpage value at a low value. That's 150 million board feet that was salvaged, $150 million in value that was salvaged out of the watershed from that one storm. 99% of it was hauled across that Bull Run bridge. The replacement of the bridge, I think, is $14 million. That's $150 million that would be sitting up there, and it'd cost, again, a third again or as much to get the timber out of there. As you well...
Thank you very much. Your point is well taken.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Savas, you have a comment.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that everyone in the room is aware that the Bull Run Bridge is a big issue for us. Talked again with passion and upset with our staff on Monday, I did, with regard to the fact that all of our federal ask for years now have been to get this bridge funded, and, you know, ODOT is basically sets that criteria for reducing the load capacity on the Bull Run Bridge. It's not Clackamas County, and so, but it's responsible for them to just helps us amplify our message to the federal delegation to fund this bridge. But this is a little bit passion here in my voice about this, because 20 some odd years ago I got involved in the water world on water districts, and then City Commissioner Eric Sten was gonna way it was lauded, is going to introduce the Bull Run water, this City Portland water, to the rest of the region with a cost. And I was a little bit put out, because what a lot of people don't know is that water that's impounded in the Bull Run is actually in Clackamas County. It's Clackamas County's water, essentially. And for have the city of Portland to say that they'll sell it back to us was then a little bit of a blow, frankly. And to exacerbate that even further, I appreciate the gentleman's comments about the money. The revenue they're getting off that Bull Run water that's in Clackamas County, that's impounded in Clackamas County, could easily pay for this bridge. But yet we don't get any support from the city of Portland, from our congressional delegation, our federal delegation, to fix this bridge and make it responsible. And it's a shame, frankly, because I am concerned about that bridge collapsing. And I don't want to see any of you or your neighbors or anyone else be hurt by this bridge. So we have to ask ourselves, what's the most responsible thing to do? And I'm sure none of you want us to close the bridge, but ODOT might just do that for us, frankly. So I just want to share that this is not just a recent issue for us. This goes back years. And we've done everything in our power to try and get, frankly, in the scheme of things, a mere $14, $15 million to fund this bridge from our federal delegation, or the city of Portland, or support from the city of Portland, or support from Multnomah County. Most of Clackamas County's drinking water does not come from the Bull Run. It comes from the Clackamas River and other sources.
Well said, Commissioner Savas. You know, we do have a match to pay for some of this. We're mindful of that. We have a road fund. We get some monies in from Oregon Department of Transportation, so we're just asking that other people pay their fair share on this. Up next, Julie Stevens. Please come forward. Julie Stevens. Oh, whoops. Whoopsie daisy. Claire Guy. Please come forward, state your name, and you have 3 minutes.
Hi, y'all. My name is Claire Guy. I've been a resident of Clackamas County for 6 years, as well as a member of the Bull Run community. I'm also chair of the Bull Run Bridge Committee, and I believe if y'all start talking about this bridge and the liability that surrounds it properly, you might be able to find the funding, because it's needed. ODOT has estimated the current Bull Run Bridge to have 5 to 10 years left for vehicles to cross the structure at the current posted weight limit. But even if funding were secured today, construction of a new bridge is estimated to take 5 years to complete. So we're brushing on a timeline where the Bull Run Bridge won't support community evacuation or fire protection, but no other bridge has been built because the project is still awaiting funding. So keep in mind, the Bull Run Bridge is the only public crossing along the 22-mile stretch of the Bull Run River. And in the last 5 years, our community has been given get-ready notices twice due to wildfire threat. During that same time, the Bull Run Bridge has had its weight limit reduced multiple times. Should the Bull Run Bridge ever be closed to vehicle traffic, there are agreements in place for fire protection to be directed through Ames Fire Station about 5 miles north of the river. But we all know fire has the capacity to break out and spread between a closed bridge and a small rural outpost. Fire breaking out in that area would block evacuation routes going north and leave our residents, workers, and visitors with no other plan than to evacuate going south towards a dead-end bridge. This would leave them escaping through the forest on foot towards a river that's bordered by steep cliffs on either side. To think our community members could be forced to make such a journey is reminiscent of the tragedy that occurred in Paradise, California, where a rural community's evacuation route was permanently narrowed, resulting in a traffic jam which allowed fire to overtake the vehicles as evacuees fled on foot. 85 people died in that disaster. But a fully functioning bridge isn't the only disaster that a fully functioning bridge spanning the Bull Run River would reasonably mitigate. After all, major headworks and pipes that connect to the Bull Run Reservoir to over 1 million people's plumbing downline, including Clackamas County residents. I get my water from that. are located in that same 5-mile stretch of land. If the current bridge fails without a new one in place, it will shut a major door for fire protection in the Bull Run, while flinging another door wide open for fire to enter the valley and roll through the Bull Run Reserve, contaminating the drinking water of over 1 million Oregon residents, Clackamas County residents included. The water crisis in Flint, Michigan affected around 100,000 people. A major fire in the Bull Run could affect 10 times that number of people and cause a disaster so large it'd impact Clackamas County and the state of Oregon on a scale beyond what our small committee can calculate. Wildfire rolling through the Bull Run Valley could spread to Mount Hood National Forest, which would turn the situation into a federal issue. So we've reached a point where if the Bull Run Bridge continues to be denied funding, it could foreseeably result in wide-ranging health, safety, and economic impacts across multiple counties and the state of Oregon at large, while also involving the federal government. The liabilities surrounding the Bull Run Bridge wholly outweigh the seemingly low amount of traffic the structure regularly supports. After all, 5 years ago in 2018, the Bull Run Bridge was rated 25.3 out of 100 and was the second lowest rated bridge in Clackamas County. Today, the bridge is only rated 2 out of 100 and is now the lowest rated bridge in the state of Oregon. The time to fund this bridge is now.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Gary, could you talk about fire trucks going over there in the event of a fire?
Yes, of course, the smaller fire trucks, of course, can go over the bridge. The larger fire trucks are an issue, which staff will clarify all this next Wednesday, May 10th.
Tune in. Tune in. Thank you very much. Up next, Jeanette Kunkel. Please state your name, your area of residence, and you have 3 minutes.
I'll stick to it, I promise. Good morning. My name is Jeanette Kunkel. I'm a resident of Oregon City, and I'm the executive director of Camp Namanu out in Clackamas County. And I'm asking, as well as all the others that have gone before me, to elevate the importance of the Bull Run Bridge repair. Camp Namanu is Oregon's oldest camp to consistently operate in one area, celebrating our centennial starting this summer. We are a 552-acre camp with 103 buildings that sit at the convergence of the Bull Run and Sandy River. We welcome over 5,000 youth annually between outdoor school and summer camp programs. We're only one camp of 4 that need to access this bridge daily to deliver services to thousands of youth. The Bull Run Bridge is imperative to our operations. Not having access to the Bull Run Bridge has multiple impacts, which come down to 3 main categories. 1, safety for emergency response, evacuation in the case of the wildfires. Number 2, access to the people we serve. Number 3, financial hardships on Camp Namanu, which operates as a 501c3. Campers arrive and depart by school bus. A loaded school bus weighs more than 12 tons. Food deliveries come from a refrigerated truck. They weigh more than 12 tons. Supply deliveries, 1 load of gravel, it's over 12 tons. Construction materials, over 12 tons. You get the picture. Our emergency vehicles, we're a large 552-acre camp. 1 small fire truck is not going to do us anything. Our forestry trucks. Removing the access to the bridges place a massive hardship on Camp Namanu, where the financial hardship will have to be passed on through our service fees, which then make affording outdoor school and summer camp only for the fiscally privileged, and removes access to the outdoors and nature to youth who are in underserved populations and desperately need it.
Thank you very much. I don't know if this board's aware, thank you for coming forward, that ODOT has put weight restrictions on many bridges in Clackamas County just like this. Mark, have you noticed that in your travels?
Oh, yeah.
So there's a little bridge next to my house, about 1.5 miles away, Milk Creek Bridge at Meadowbrook. And my husband and I were driving there. I said, stop the car. Oh my gosh. Not only did they weight limit Bull Run Bridge, but ODOT has put weight limits on multiple. I couldn't guess how many bridges because we have a lot of creeks. He says, well, I need to log. By the way, I come from a long line of logging family. I know exactly what you're talking about. How am I going to get the log truck to our farm and then haul the logs to the mill? I says, they're going to have to go around, but all the routes that we decide to go around all have bridges like this. So I don't know what ODOT is thinking. By weight limiting multiple bridges, you have just shut down commerce in Clackamas County, but maybe then that's what they want. I tend to wonder. An additional, yeah, they want that toll. additional factoid regarding the Bull Run Bridge. Did you know that the Bull Run Bridge was never a newly built bridge? It's a part of the very, very old Burnside Bridge. They took a section and put it over here, and now the new Burnside Bridge is so old, it needs replaced as well. So that's what we're dealing with here. And we're going to have a very interesting policy session next week on that. Next up, and I apologize for not pronouncing it, is it Keller? Keller, and sir, could you? Kellen, and could you say your name?
Yeah, my name is Kellen Bateham. I live in the Bull Run. I see the bridge every day and cross it quite frequently. I had prepared a big written statement here, but most of what I had has been covered by the other folks. What I really want to focus on is that you guys have a meeting coming up on Wednesday, and I know that there are emergency funds, there are funds that can be drawn and redirected. Can you please make this bridge of your highest priority to start the planning phase? If we only have 5 to 10 years of a functioning bridge left, and it's going to take 5 years to build that, we need to start planning this now. Because more than just the fire protection that it helps, and more than just the city of, like the Portland's water that goes there, this bridge is like a lifeline for commerce and community, and without this bridge, it really cuts off a whole chunk of Clackamas County on the end. You might as well just cede it to Multnomah County and give them the whole Bull Run, because this bridge is what connects that aspect to the rest of the county. I'm lucky. I live on what I would consider, the mainland side of the bridge. I don't have to cross the bridge to get to Sandy. If a bridge closed, I just end on a dead-end road. But for hundreds of people, it is the lifeline. It takes an hour to get from one side of the bridge to the other if you can't cross that bridge. We're not just a small little rural bridge. This is a lifeline that connects for so many people for any number of reasons that have been covered here. And so I'd really like to just say, please, when you have this meeting coming up, this bridge deserves the money to be looked at. I just end by inviting you all out to the Bull Run. I know it's easy to talk about a bridge that you might not have been to or you were at years ago. I live right there. My contact information's on that card. I'm happy to bring you around and introduce you to community members so you can really see the impacts on this bridge. And please invite Senator Wyden. If he's the one who holds the keys to this,
I think that's a darn
bring him
good
out.
idea.
We'd love to host all of you. It's a beautiful bridge as well. It's a shame that it's so old. I mean, it's 126 years old. It's a wonderful piece of architecture, and it's a shame that it's been neglected so long. So, thank you.
Thank you, Kellen, for coming forward. Commissioner West, do you have a comment?
I just have a question for Gary, maybe the staff. Yes, Ron Wyden, Jeff Merkley, U.S. Senators, who in the House and our congressional delegation represents this area?
Blumenauer.
This is a Blumenauer area. So Blumenauer in the House, and specifically Ron Wyden, based on his committees in the Senate. Okay, I just wanted to make sure I understood who was supposed to represent this.
And just for a point of reference, last September, Commissioner Schrader and I visited all 3 of those and begged them to do the bridge.
Do you think Blumenauer and was a congressional man Blumenauer and Senator Ron Wyden would come out for a joint
I don't know, but I think we
viewing
should
with us?
ask them. I think we should ask. It's worth asking. Commissioner Savas, you're up.
Yeah, so to the last gentleman's suggestion, the meeting I referenced earlier on Monday was the potential that we might have identified some funding with ODOT to do that pre-engineering work underway. So you'll hear about that Wednesday, my guess is. So we'll keep our fingers crossed that we've got that underway. I certainly wanted to acknowledge and add that you guys live in one of the most beautiful areas in the state of Oregon. I have been through the Bull Run, both entrances through it and everything else, the wildlife, the beauty. I mean, it's stunning. I would suggest everyone have an opportunity to tour that area. It's absolutely the most gorgeous areas I've ever seen. So congratulations for at least where you live.
Mm-hmm.
My condolences on the risk that you have. So your thoughts and concerns are well taken. Thank you.
Up next, Sister Krista. Please come forward, state your name, area of residence, and you have 3 minutes.
Good morning. I'm Sister Krista von Borstel, Executive Director of CYO in Camp Howard. I live in Beaverton, Oregon, Washington County. Happy to say, not Multnomah. I can see that you don't need preached at this morning. You're all very, very smart people, and this has been a great experience for me. I've never been to something like this before, so I'm just going to give you a little extra fodder because you know the drill. We need the fire. We need the health services. We haven't had waste management service in 6 weeks. We get our propane from Malala. So, you know, we're on the other side of the bridge, and so that bridge really makes a big difference to us, too. But some of the information you've shared with us is very interesting, and I think that we all need to help you with Ron Wyden. So if you give us some helpful feedback like that, you know, I intend to keep moving on it also, and I'm sure the others that came today also will. So I will turn my speech in, and I will just thank you all for what you're doing for us. Grateful.
Thank you. And both Senators Wyden and Merkley have offices in Portland, and maybe you can contact those local offices and get the message to them. Tony, do we have anybody online for public comment?
We do not, Madam Chair.
Okay. That's all I have for public comment at this time. I really want to thank you folks for coming in. And you know, this is what these meetings are designed to do. We know that there's a huge problem. We've already scheduled a meeting to try to deal with this next week. I don't know if we can go ahead and just replace a new bridge, but at least we could make it safe and able to transport people and large trucks and fire trucks and whatever needs to be done. I'm hopeful that we can do that, but we will start forward on this. Gary, what's up?
Next is County Administrator update. I will pass this week, so next Commissioner Communications is next, Chair.
We will start with Commissioner Communication. Who is up first? Let me get my paper. Is it Commissioner Savas? Are you up first?
I have no idea. Am I?
Yes, I believe you are, sir.
Well, I know we talked a lot about tolling. I did want to say that I will possibly be talking about that again this evening at our Clackamas County Coordinating Committee, and in the days coming, I did want to acknowledge that we have got to do and look at I've used the word change the paradigm and how transportation funding is done and how transportation funding decisions are made, both, and they're two quite different things, funding and how decisions are made. And I think there's nothing better than this opportunity or this crisis, if you want to call it that. I'll call it a crisis, to shine a light on how messed up this is. And think about it for a minute. The ODOT has been said, oh, well, it's not us. We were directed to do this by the state legislature. And then that assignment goes to the Oregon Transportation Committee. We call it the OTC, and the OTC says, oh, no, we were directed by this legislature to do this, but we have the authority to do this, that, and the other thing. And then comes along the governor, thank goodness that she did do this, and say, oh, I'm going to put a pause on this. And we're local jurisdictions in this, by the way. You know, we talk about potholes, we talk about bridges, but you know where the dollars come from for these potholes and the bridges and the roads? They come from our gas tax dollars. And that share, for every dollar, is 50% goes to the state, 30% to the counties, and 20% to the cities. And in this tolling discussion we've had, this is another revenue source. ODOT has said, you know, we need to replace gas tax. It's not enough. There's not enough money. Costs are going up, so on and so forth. We need a replacement, and tolling's a replacement. But they don't want to talk about sharing the revenue. Well, we're going to leave the cities and the counties high and dry and not talk about the revenue. This is one of the primary reasons we have pushed back and got jurisdictional support, frankly. And frankly, the League of Oregon Cities and the Association of Oregon Counties needs to look at this really close. They might be far away from this maybe in other parts of the state, but they need to look and realize that if they're allowed to continue to ignore us, ignore the jurisdictional share, the funding share, that this has got impacts on us all. So we've got to take this opportunity. We need to seize it. We cannot be complacent. Frankly, I'm actually more energized than I am complacent. I'm going to continue to press for this. I'm hopefully be able to press for this, whether it's tomorrow at the AOC Subcommittee on Transportation or whether it's Monday at the AOC Legislative Committee, to at least get a few words on this and alert my colleagues around the state. And again, I'm meeting with members of the LOC as well to talk about this. We need to alert everyone to why this is so important. That's what I have for today, Chair.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Savas. Commissioner West, you're up next.
Thank you, Chair. So proud of Clackamas County. This is one of the most important fights I think this county's taken on in a long time. But it would be remiss for us not to take a minute to absolutely be thankful for the allies we have from our local cities and jurisdictions. Not just those that are most impacted, closest to the kind of the target zone of tolling where the gantries would be, like West Lynn and Oregon City. But there has been a galvanization, as Commissioner Savas said, of, I believe, the majority of cities here in Clackamas. And I always like to remind people this because I think one of the great aspects of our system is all the different layers of checks and balances. And one of those layers is your local government. And the government closest to you impacts your life the most and is the most accountable directly to the citizen. And in Clackamas County, I think we're really starting to show our ability to work within a team to do really important work to protect our local communities. So I'm super proud of that. I continue to learn and grow in this issue. There are other ideas on how to provide funding from the reduction of the gas tax, but sometimes in Salem, some of those really great innovative ideas that should be fleshed out are just ignored or pushed to the side on the trash heap of bills that just won't even get a hearing. And so I think that it's important that we continue to let our voice be heard. I'm excited about some things coming up next week, and I'll bring those to you guys later as we move into next week. And so it's been a busy week as we move forward, and I've got a chance to see even more important aspects of our community around community paramedic work, some of the first-hand responders, and have spent some time with them. So that has been very eye-opening for me as a commissioner. And as we all move forward, we look forward to serving you further. That's all I have this week, Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner West. Gary, you have a comment?
No, I just need to leave the meeting at 11:55, so Nancy will fill in for me.
Oh,
If you're
11:55. I
still
thought it was
going.
11:45.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Thank you very much. Up next is Commissioner Schrader.
Well, much like Commissioner Savas, I'll be attending the Community and Transportation Development Committee, probably via Zoom tomorrow on Friday. And I will be attending the Executive Committee meeting of the Association of Oregon Counties on Sunday evening. And I can certainly help bring some of the concerns we've mentioned here today to that organization. I believe that they are well aware of it. And also on Monday, we'll see each other at the Legislative Committee and the other committees that are going to be working on these issues. I've been tracking them. I do think that they are aware of it and will be great allies in how we move forward, not only with tolling, but with the Bull Run Bridge and other issues that we're having with ODOT. So thank you, Commissioner. We can tag team tomorrow and have some fun together. The other thing that I've been working on today is the deadline where I put forward some nonprofits throughout the state for the Grand Ronde Community Fund. Hopefully I'll be sitting with Tracy Moreland and Christina. I usually work with them on it because I like to have multiple eyes on the discussion and what we're choosing to fund, for our nonprofits in the area, Clackamas County, as well as the state of Oregon. The other thing I wanted to start mentioning is, because we live in a time when it gets kind of down out there sometimes. So I wanted to mention something fun and light, and I would say hopefully everyone can get a chance to go to it. However, the Lakewood Theater of the Arts has a fantastic musical at this time called Something Rotten. Welcome to the Renaissance, ladies and gentlemen. Set in the 1590s, brothers Nick and Nigel Bottom are desperate to write a hit play, but are stuck in the shadow of the Renaissance rock star known as the Bard. When a local soothsayer foretells that the future of theater involves singing, dancing, and acting at the same time, Nick and Nigel set out to write the world's very first musical. But amidst the scandalous excitement of opening night, the Bottom brothers realize that reaching the top means being true to thine own self and all that jazz. I don't know if you get all that jazz. You get it. All that jazz from Chicago. Yeah, that's a little bit of a play on words from those of us that are theater nerds. But I did want to start mentioning the arts in this county. They do a great job for us. Not only do we have Lakewood Theater of the Arts, we have our own Clackamas County Repertory Theater. And I would like to point out that if you go down into our Development Services building, they just put up a new art display. That's another wonderful opportunity. And I know that Chair Smith has been working really hard, and I've been looking at sculptures and things myself for the Arts Committee for our new Clackamas County Courthouse, because in a world that can get very hard, and in a world where it could be easy to feel as if there's no light, there's no joy, that indeed there is light and joy in our community, and we should be looking at going to our arts and supporting them, because that helps us, I think, be better people and have more narratives and stories to tell. The other thing is that I have been mentioning more than once to Nancy about the opportunity, colleagues, for a pollinator garden here on our campus. And I actually have a photograph of a sculpture that is available in Lake Oswego, if it doesn't get selected to be one of its permanent sculptures that they keep there, of a big, huge, bumblebee pollinating a flower. So I'm not giving up on that. So a little joy and light this morning as we wrestle with some really, really difficult issues and the complexities of transportation, how we provide for people in human services, and how we try to work hard for our citizens. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Schrader. Commissioner West?
So my spouse Paul and I love going to the theater with Commissioner Schrader. But I think it would be a really cool experience if we all went to the theater together. You don't have to go, but I think I'll just throw it out there. I think it would be a fun commissioner, support the arts event if maybe we did that. But Paul and I will be joining you for that show.
Yes, we are. We're picking a date right now, and actually Lakewood's been trying to get all of us there at the same time for a few years. Yeah, oh yeah, they want us to come to their big gala, and the city is also having their big, well, not the city, it's the Rotary Club in Lakewood Lobster Feed in mid-June. That is fun, it's fantastic. You get to network with everybody in the city, with people who love the arts, and look at some beautiful artwork, and just have a plain old good time with lobsters that they fly in from New England. So I'll get you guys that information.
Good.
All right.
Commissioner Scholl, you're up.
Yes, good morning. Thank you. Good morning, Clackamas County. I have a few highlights to share with you today. There are many bills going through the state legislature right now. It's very difficult to keep up with them all, but one of them I want to bring to your attention is House Bill 2002, which, if passed, would reduce parental rights in decision-making for medical treatment for our children. I'm very concerned about this bill. We need to protect our children of this state, and also we need to protect the rights of parents. Please look at House Bill 2002. It's passed through the House, so look at it and then call your state senator. On the cost of government, the state budget is growing, as is the county budget, and it looks to me like the cost of government is outpacing the rise in the increase of family incomes. Please be aware of what's happening in Salem and keep track of what happens in Clackamas County this month as we work on your next budget. One thing I want to call to your attention, it has to do with Multnomah County. On the special election in May is Measure 26-238. If it passes, the capital gains on the sale of your home, your business, or even withdrawing from your retirement account will be taxed. Please, this is a very troubling measure. Again, it's related to the cost of government at the expense of the taxpayer. That's Multnomah County Measure 26-238. We have a lot of friends that live in Multnomah County, including my mom. It'll affect her if this passes. On voting, another issue in the state legislature right now is a discussion about how measures are described in the voter pamphlets. You might recall in November of 2020, there was a measure called Measure 110 was in the voter pamphlet, and I remember receiving many, many phone calls from people who simply didn't understand what it said. So there is an intent in Salem to write measures that I believe are intended to be intentionally confusing. If you go back to November of 2020 and read Measure 110, virtually no one will argue with that. Please be aware of this and read your voter pamphlet statement very, very closely. This morning we heard from some of our residents from the Bull Run area about the Bull Run Bridge. There is the 2023 Regional Transportation Plan from Metro. It will look at funding transportation for the next 20 years out to 2045. My concern about the plan is that it leaves very little money for actual improvement of roads and bridges in Clackamas County. If you want to learn more about it, go to Metro, OregonMetro.gov, and look at the Regional Transportation Plan. Finally, I want to thank Malia Kupelis from our Community Preparedness Subcommittee. We had a good meeting yesterday. They're doing a lot of good work on that. Thank you to everybody who's involved in that subcommittee. Again, a reminder, May 16th is a special election. Please read your voter pamphlet and vote. We heard about tolling today also, but let's not let up on the pressure. Go to votebeforetolls.org, download the petition, and get it signed and get it turned in. And a thought for today. Do not underestimate the power of your words, your touch, your smile, and your ability to listen to a young person. A compliment, an act of caring, all have the potential to turn a life around, change your self-image, and spark new confidence in the heart and mind of a Clackamas County child. Thank you, Clackamas County, and enjoy the thunderstorm.
Thank you, Commissioner Shull. You know, regarding that capital gains tax in Multnomah County, I suspect it'll pass. They haven't met a tax they don't like, but I welcome residents to move to our county where we don't have that.
Yes.
Just saying, thank you very much. And Commissioner Schrader, thank you for bringing up art on the courthouse. We have and are going to apply at the Grand Ron Foundation for art, for a grant for art, and All we need is money.
I know.
All we need is money to purchase and get our art, and hopefully some will be donations.
And I'll probably have to recuse myself from that vote, but that's okay. I think the rest of the folks might
John
be
George
interested.
made me aware of that.
Oh, did he really?
Yes,
Good.
that
Yeah,
was
he's a
very
good
nice.
guy. Yeah.
Very good conversation. We've all been very busy. There's a lot going on in the county, especially this time of year, trying to get stuff teed up that will take us through the year and more to come. Budget is coming in a couple weeks. We need to turn our attention to that, and all commissioners need to be very cognizant of what's in the budget, as the budget books will drop on May 15, and that will be made available to the public online as well. I attended the Canby Chamber of Commerce luncheon on Tuesday. It was very interesting. They had a report from their economic director and gave a presentation of all the happenings in Canby. And they are very much moving forward on the development. She says it's been a long time coming out of COVID. They have plans, and it just sounds like a hopping place over there. It's very nice. I was also able to sit at the table with our fair executive director, Brian Snow, and he updated me on the multi-purpose / livestock building at the fair. And I said, did you ever get that traffic study done from the city of Canby? And he says, well, that's interesting. They've been waiting on it. And they went to Kittleson, the traffic engineer company, who said, you don't need a traffic study because there's really going to be no impact, just building a new fair barn. And the city of Canby came back and said, yes, you do need a new traffic study. So now they're back doing a traffic study that the engineers say they don't need. So I find that very interesting, but they were able to get an approval to go ahead and do two things at the same time in Canby. They're going to go ahead and submit their plans for the planning department while the traffic study is being conducted. I don't understand any of that. I am just reporting. So thank you very much, commissioners. Nancy, thank you for joining us today, and pitch hitting for Administrator Schmidt, who has left. Seeing no further business before this commission, we are adjourned.